Hey Raiders, Jacko here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. So today we're going to do a guide on a champion that I said we would do a guide on, and he's going to be our very first legendary champion, and that is our own badass orc, Iron Brago. So Iron Brago was a fragment fusion event early in this year. I think it was the beginning of February or thereabouts, and I was able to push through and able to fully fuse Iron Brago, and I am not sad at that at all. I am very happy he's in every one of my teams. Yeah, every one of my teams. There is not a place in the game I am not using Iron Brago. Let's find out why. So skills, we're going to start with his A run. Molten Pummeling. Attacks one enemy, has a 30% when fully booked, chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs by 1 turn. Nice, especially in those Doom Tower situations where they've got tons of buffs. Not a game changer though. It does hit nicely though. A2, Fearless Charge. Places a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 3 turns, then attacks one enemy. Has a 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Has a 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 2 turns instead if the target is under 2 or more buffs. And when you fully book him out, that's at a 100% chance for the stun and a 3-turn cooldown. So he's keeping decreased defense up all the time, and he's got a 100% chance to try and place a stun every 3 turns. It's great. The number of times this has saved me in an arena fight, I just can't count. It's a wonderful skill. And then Battlestorm. Attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Also places a 50% decrease attack debuff on all allies for 2 turns if Iron Brago is under an increased defense buff. Well, guess what? With his A2, he's keeping an increased defense buff up on himself all the time. And in the AI, he uses his A2 before he uses his A3. So this is always giving them a decreased attack debuff. That's wonderful. I mean, this frees up your debuffer from having to be a decreased defense, decreased attack debuffer to really any of the new ones out there that are just decreased defense and then some other utility, like Ugo, who I use on a team with him. Fully booked, we're up to a 75% chance of placing the provoke, and it's an AoE, so very nice, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown as well. It's wonderful. And if that's not enough for you, we have his passive, Bestow Strength. Increases the defense of all allies by 10% of this champion's defense. That's huge. 10% of this champion's debuff just as an added defense to the rest of your team. He brings survivability with him. It's wonderful. He's got an aura here that increases allied defense in Doom Tower battles by 34%. Wonderful. So he's bringing defense in an aura. He's bringing the Bestow Strength to just passively increase your defense. Masteries here, I went a pretty typical debuffer kind of mastery. I went down the left side to War Master, so he's doing all the damage. I came down here to Master Hexer, 30% chance to extend the duration of any debuffs, not including stun. So the decrease attack debuff. I also came down here to Lasting Gifts to increase the buff, or the increased defense buff that he gets. Now, you can make an argument to ignore that since he keeps it up all the time and go with Sniper to help with that. Well, it doesn't increase stun chance. Never mind. So, Sniper is not worthwhile. So that's where I set him up. So, he does a lot of damage and everything like that. So, priorities for him. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. 1, I think you want to get your crit up to 100%. He actually hits really hard. The Fearless Charge, is it? Places attacks. Yeah. This hits like a Mack truck. So does his AoE Battlestorm. They're just massive hits. But the real thing we need to look for, you can try and build accuracy for those stuns and the decrease attack, So, what do you want with your Iron Brago? This is the problem with this character. You want accuracy for the stuns and the decreased attack. You want crit rate so that he hits really hard. You want speed so that he's going where you need him to go. And you really, really, really want defense. So I've got him at essentially 3,500 defense. That means he's giving 350 defense to everybody else in the fight, on my side of the fight, which is a big increase. Not subtle at all. It helps everybody survive. And you really want to put some health in there as well. I've got his health tanked, in all honesty, which hurts me in Arena. I'll admit that he's one of the first ones to go down in Arena, which sucks. Because Arena's got a lot of ignore defense hits. Anytime ignore defense comes up, poor Iron Brago just gets smashed with the way I've got him set up. But I've got his accuracy up enough that his debuffs land. I've got his crit rate up so that he hurts. I've got his speed up so he's going in the right place. And I've got that defense just racked as high as I can go. So what's your priority with him? Is he there to add survivability? If so, then defense and speed. And probably some more hit points than I have. Those are your priorities. Do you want him to do damage? Look at getting crit rate in with his defense. Do you want him to try and do everything that he can do? Then try and do everything he's got. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy to pull off. I don't have him in absolute exceptional gear. I mean, a level 16 4-star. But I've got him in really good gear. And I would love to get this banner to the point where it was a, accuracy banner that wasn't, an uncommon. But so be it. It is how it is. I have him in lifesteal gear and perception gear. Again, I'm using that perception gear to get a little bit of speed and that plus 40 accuracy so that his debuffs land more. The lifesteal gear, he hits really hard, and this lifesteal gear helps keep him alive. So let's take a look at our beast in a Dragon's Run. Dragon's the easiest one we do here, so we might as well do it. And I'm not going to do 20 because you don't want to sit there and listen to me talk the whole time. So the team I have around him is Apothecary. If you've got Apothecary, run Apothecary. He's amazing. Again, Cold Heart. If you've got a Cold Heart, run Cold Heart. Those two, if you've got them, run them. Now, I have it backed up with, a Skull Crusher, because I just got him, and he actually does a really good job of turning a team that doesn't have an AoE nuker into a team that can really burn down the ads. And then I've got my debuffer in Ugo. She gives some healing, backing up Apothecary in that regard. She gives the debuffs, and she's got the leech to help everybody survive. So that's my team. You can easily replace Ugo with Warmaiden. You can easily replace a Skull Crusher with, see, look at that, 30,000 and a stun on his A2. It's massive, just massive. That's a regular hit because of but there you go. That was his AoE, which took out 3 of the 4 people remaining. He hits like a ton of bricks. It's wonderful. And that's his regular A1. He's doing 11 to 12,000. It's just wonderful. Now, back to what I was saying. So, you can replace Ugo with Warmaiden for debuffer, just fine. You can replace Skull Crusher with your beginning character, your starter, so Kale or Galek or anything like that, for an AoE damage dealer. Now, notice, poor Iron Brago is not showing off his stuff very well here because he took a massive hit from Faceless, who ignores defense. Exactly what I was talking about. His health is not high enough to really be where I need him to be. I need his health at least another 10k higher. And I'm going to probably have to sacrifice defense to do it, which is sad, but it's the way it goes. And sadly, my Ugo can only resurrect if she's the last one there. So that's the end of Iron Brago for this run, sadly. We'll go ahead and finish it out. But you saw the A2 there. It's a massive hit, doing like 35,000 damage with the way I've got him built, and landing that stun on a regular basis. Then he's got his AoE hit, which does a really, really respectable amount of damage and has the provoke on it. It's just wonderful. That provoke backfired on me as he got just utterly eaten by an ignore defense champ, but that happens. I mean, you're gonna have to decide how you build your Iron Brago for getting the most out of him for what you're looking for. I wanted him to do damage, so I built the crit rate. Honestly, he'd probably be better off not having the crit rate and having more health instead, switching those out. My runs would take longer, sadly, because he is one of the heavy damage dealers on the team. Of course, Cold Heart being the other heavy damage dealer on the team. And we'll probably see that at the end of this. But there you have it. That's what Iron Brago does. And he does it so well. You don't necessarily... He's not flashy. I mean, he's not a Draco morph where he's decreasing all of their defense and then doing these massive amount of damage plus poison. He's not a bad Alcazar who is going to run it on his own without needing the rest of the team there. So he's not one of the flashy legendaries, but the amount of utility he brings to the table and survivability he brings to the table is just massive. I mean, Cold Heart only did 550,000 damage, and Ugo, before we got to the boss, even had done 200,000. He hits like a truck. It's just wonderful. He is not a barbarian, he is an orc. There we go. So, aesthetically wise, let's go ahead and take a look at him. He's really cool looking in my opinion. However, he's not all that combat active. So he does have nice greaves, nice sabatons on the bottom. He's got a full kit of, it looks like probably studded leather drape that goes down below his knees. So he's got knee protection, which is great. He's protecting his upper legs. He's protecting his vital arteries on the inside, the femoral artery and everything. So very nice there. He's got a nice waist protection belt here, dangling with skulls, which is awesome. Also a trophy off of some dwarf there, which is great. I love it. His chest armor is actually covering. It's protecting his chest and everything. It looks like it's probably banded. So banded mail. A little bit strange kind of mail. You see it in Roman Centurion armor, is this kind of banded mail that moves very nicely actually, and is actually very protective. So very nice there. He's got full neck protection, which is great. He's got no hand protection with no guards on his weapons, so that's a really bad idea. However, his Vam braces are pretty nice. They're not going to get in the way. The spikes are not going to tear him up. The chain's going to add a little extra weight. Maybe he knows how to transfer that weight into his blows. You never know. It might also just be decorational. Maybe it's the equivalent of duct tape, and his Vam brace was about to fall off, so he just wrapped it with chain to keep it on. I have wrapped my Vam braces in duct tape to keep them on before during a melee or a tournament. Sometimes you just can't get the repair in. I really like the chain weights here. They don't really have a purpose that I can tell combat wise, but I like the drapes. The shoulder pads are a little stupid. Now, I like the skull motif. I like the fact that he's got trophy pieces dangling off of them every which way. But they're too big. They're just too big. I mean, if they were sized down a little bit so this point wasn't, a foot away from the edge of his shoulder, they would be really protective and really good. The inside bend here, or fold, is going to help it keep away from running into him, but it's also probably going to get caught in his chain drape here pretty often. Looking at the helm, he's got what looks like just a conical hat, essentially, a skull cap. It's got a little bit of face protection there. But he does have a fully exposed face, which is not great for him. And then it's got a heavy chain drape. Now, if this chain is interlocked and becomes a form of chainmail, this drape is actually really protective. At the right here, at essentially the base of his skull, where the chain is going to be up against a bone, that's gonna hurt if he gets hit there. But the rest of it, there's some leeway, there's some motion and air between the chainmail drape and the rest of his body, and that's going to allow the chainmail drape to bend and absorb a lot of the force of any blow. So it's actually a really good drape, and it covers his neck. So the only vital point he's leaving open with his helm is his face. So if we stopped there, I would give him a 4 or 5 gourd, honestly. Even with the crazy pauldrons. It looks great. It's actually protective. But then Iron Brago goes and decides that he needs to look like he's trying to develop wings or horns or something. He welds these front spikes onto his helm. Okay, front spikes, we can deal with that. Might get in the way of his attacks a little bit, but just like with Stag Knight, very pretty. If he knows how to wield his weapons around them, great. But what are these? I mean, really, what are these side pieces? What purpose do they serve? He's got a frickin' field goal on his head. It's ridiculous. These pieces are ludicrous. They don't do anything. They're gonna get in his way. They're gonna catch all kinds of random shit that would have gone over his head, and that's going to yank his head around and put a lot of stress on his neck. And he didn't stop there. He didn't stop there. What are you thinking, Brago? You looked badass, and then you kept welding pieces of metal onto yourself, like these wings. This, I don't know. Is this so that someone can, like, hook you to a shelf upside down? What are these? What's the purpose of these? They're not even trophy racks. There aren't trophies coming out of them. Some of the other orcs, like, where is he? No. This guy's got a trophy rack on the back, and he's actually got trophies on it. But no, Iron Brago decides to weld these giant metal pieces onto his back for no particular reason. Maybe he's really front heavy, like this armor is exceptionally heavy in the front, and he keeps falling forward, so he needed to balance himself out? I just don't know. All the rest of his kit, he's got trophies, he's got really nicely tooled drapes and everything. Looks wonderful. But these wings are insane. Because of that, I'm going to have to step Iron Brago's armor aesthetic down to 3 gourds. I'm just not impressed. Weapons-wise, he's got some pretty real cool weapons. Now, they're not flashy, in that they're essentially just an iron rod holding these heavy metal pieces that are slightly molten, which is impressive in and of itself, and the fact that it can keep them molten, and then a cage around them so that the molten pieces don't go flying off of the handle. There's no decoration on these. There's no aesthetic. There's no thought about making them pretty or ceremonial or anything like that. They're all about a convenient way to hold a flaming chunk of metal at the end of your stick. That being said, that flaming chunk of metal looks absolutely awesome, and it would be terrifying. He's got that down. So weapons-wise, I'm going to go ahead and give Iron Brago here an overall aesthetic of 4 gourds. If he had some way to protect his hands, then it would be a 5 gourd weapon choice, but he doesn't. So he's going to lose the weapons when he loses his fingers, which is sad. Badassitude. This guy is terrifying. I mean, at first glance, you're going to laugh your head off at the top bits, the wings, or whatever those are supposed to be. Those are going to be hysterical, but then you're going to take a second look and realize that the armor is well made. It is very protective. And then you're going to look at the fact that he's carrying around 2 molten hunks of steel and has no problem holding on to the metal handles. That's terrifying. And finally, after you realize that, yes, pieces of him are ludicrous, but the rest of him is scary, you're going to notice all of these trophies hanging off of him. He's killed elves, he's killed dwarves, he's killed anything he's come across, and he's dangling their bits from his armor just to show you what you're in for. That is absolutely terrifying, and as such, his bad attitude is an easy 5 gourds. This guy is going to destroy the morale of his opponents. Just destroy it as he strodes onto the field. It's going to be terrifying. In terms of overall aesthetics, I am a huge fan of Iron Brago. I really wish they had done something about these 2 pieces. You get rid of those 2 pieces and he's a favorite when it comes to his aesthetic. He really is. So, because of those 2 pieces, it really pulls him away from the full 5 gourds. And I'm going to give Iron Brago an aesthetic of 4 gourds overall. He's got a great look going. He's got mean weapon, mean armor, but he obviously has something a little unhinged for having put these metal pieces on him. Those I am not a fan of. So there you have it. There is Iron Brago, a champion guide, first legendary champion guide on my channel for really my first legendary that I actually used. Now, did you manage to get Iron Brago during that Fragment Fusion event? And if so, have you decided to kit him out? Have you booked him? And that's a really big one. Have you gone in and booked him? He's got a lot of books, so we've got 4 there. We got 6 there, so we're at 10. We're at 16 books to fully book him out. He still works without the books, but he doesn't work anywhere near as well. You would really be banking off his bestow strength without the books. But he was worth it for 16 books for me. Did you book him out? And if so, are you happy with what he's done for your team? Please let me know in the comments below. Do you think I'm ludicrous? Do you have a reason for those giant metal wing things that he's got on? Do you have some explanation for why he's wearing those? Please tell me in the comments below. I want to like his aesthetic more than I do. Maybe it's because I have a thing for orcs. Whatever. Anyways, as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and toll that bell so that you get notifications and we keep this channel rolling. Otherwise, thank you again, and I'll see you next time on Jacko's Raider Rants.